Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the National Timely Action Hour podcast. This is the show where we talk about everything from comic books to Star Wars and everything in between. I hope that you're doing well today. My name is Aidan, and welcome if you are a new listener, and welcome back if you are returning. So today we are on Season 3, Episode 7. This is the timeline of Doctor Who on screen. Now, Doctor Who is a British science fiction series that has been running since 1963, and at the time of recording, it is January 2024, so just a couple of months ago we celebrated the show's 60th anniversary, and that's around the time that I got back into the fandom, because I've been a fan of Doctor Who since I was, I'd say about 11, and I really liked the show, but I fell off, and I decided, you know what, it's time to come back. And I've been rewatching some things that I have seen before, and I've been watching episodes that I have not seen before, and I am loving diving back into this. And I wanted to share this with you, my listeners. And before we begin, I do have a few caveats. So there are 15 official Doctors. Now, for those of you who are new to the series, Doctor Who is a show about an alien who goes by the name of the Doctor, or sometimes Doctor Who, and he can regenerate, as they say, which means that when he dies, he is reincarnated, like in Buddhism. And there are 15 official incarnations, although there are more. But for the purposes of this episode, I'm just going to go with the 13 main ones. And it just makes things easier for everyone. And I personally have some disagreements about how many Doctors there should be. But I am not the man in charge of the BBC and their programming, so feel free to disagree with me. I have no authority over this other than my admiration of the show. But, like I said, we're going to be covering the main 13, and there are many different stories featuring the different incarnations in the expanded universe, but I want to focus on the show and the film. And with that being said, let's get started with the first Doctor, played by the late, great William Hartnell. And one final note, in British series, they had serials like in the old film serials like The Flash Gordon or Batman and Robin of the 40s, and so each episode is part of an arc, or a story. And so when I say the name of the episode, that's just the name of the story, because each individual part has its name, like part 2, the something something, and I just wanted to get that on the record for you. So William Hartnell as Doctor Who had several stories, and those are An Unearthly Child, The Daleks, The Edge of Destruction, Marco Polo, The Keys of Marinus, The Aztecs, The Sensorites, The Reign of Terror, Planet of Giants, The Dalek Invasion of Earth, The Rescue, The Romans, The Web Planet, The Crusade, The Space Museum, The Time Meddler, Galaxy 4, Mission to the Unknown, The Myth Makers, The Daleks' Master Plan, The Massacre, The Ark, The Celestial Toy Maker, The Gunfighters, The Savages, The War Machines, The Smugglers, and The 10th Planet. And then we move on to the second Doctor, played by the late great Patrick Troughton, and his stories are The Power of the Daleks, The Highlanders, The Underwater Menace, The Moon Base, The Macra Terror, The Faceless Ones, The Evil of the Daleks, The Tomb of the Cybermen, The Abominable Snowmen, The Ice Warriors, The Enemy of the World, The Web of Fear, Fury from the Deep, The Wheel in Space, The Dominators, The Mind Robber, The Invasion, The Crotons, The Seeds of Death, The Space Pirates, and The War Games. And now let us move on to the third Doctor, played by the late great Jon Pertwee, and his stories are Spearhead from Space, Doctor Who and the Silurians, The Ambassadors of Fear, Inferno, Terror of the Autons, The Mind of Evil, The Claws of Axos, Colony in Space, The Daemons, Day of the Daleks, The Curse of Peladon, The Sea Devils, The Mutants, The Time Monster, The Three Doctors, Carnival of Monsters, Frontier in Space, Planet of the Daleks, The Green Death, The Time Warrior, Invasion of the Dinosaurs, Death to the Daleks, The Monster of Peladon, and Planet of the Spiders. Then we move on to the fourth Doctor, played by the great Tom Baker, thankfully, who is still with us. And his stories are Robot, The Ark in Space, The Sontaran Experiment, Genesis of the Daleks, Revenge of the Cybermen, Terror of the Zygons, Planet of Evil, Pyramids of Mars, The Android Invasion, The Brain of Morbius, The Seeds of Doom, The Mosque of Mandragora, The Hand of Fear, The Deadly Assassin, The Face of Evil, The Robots of Death, The Talons of Wang Chang, Horror of Fang Rock, The Invisible Enemy, Image of the Fendal, The Sunmakers, Underworld, The Invasion of Time, The Ribos Operation, The Pirate Planet, The Stones of Blood, The Androids of Terra, The Power of Kroll, The Armageddon Factor, The Destiny of the Daleks, City of Death, The Creature from the Pit, Nightmare of Eden, The Horns of Nimon, Shada, The Leisure Hive, Meglos, Full Circle, State of Decay, Warrior's Gate, The Keeper of Traken, and Logopolis. Then we move on to the fifth Doctor, played by Peter Davison, and his stories are Castrovala, Four to Doomsday, Kinda, The Visitation, Black Orchid, Earthshock, Time Flight, Arc of Infinity, Snake Dance, Modern Undead, Terminus, Enlightenment, The King's Demons, The Five Doctors, Warriors of the Deep, The Awakening, Frontios, Resurrection of the Daleks, Planet of Fire, The Caves of Androsnia, and then we have the sixth Doctor, played by Colin Baker, whose stories are The Twin Dilemma, Attack of the Cybermen, Vengeance on Varos, The Mark of the Rani, The Two Doctors, Time Lash, Revelation of the Daleks, The Mysterious Planet, Mind Warp, Terror of the Vervoids, and The Ultimate Foe. Then we move on to the final part of the original series, with the seventh Doctor, played by Sylvester McCoy, whose stories include Time and the Rani, Paradise Towers, Delta and the Bannermen, Dragonfire, Remembrance of the Daleks, The Happiness Patrol, Silver Nemesis, The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, Battlefield, Ghostlight, The Curse of Fenric, and Survival. After the Seventh Doctor's run in 1989, the show ended because of poor ratings. The BBC had decided to cancel it. But there were several attempts to resurrect the show. And in 1996, we have the release of the Doctor Who film, starring Paul McGann as the Eighth Doctor. And then, in 2013, he got his first full mini-episode, And so the Eighth Doctor stories are Doctor Who, the movie, and The Night of the Doctor. Most of the Eighth Doctor stories are books and audio dramas and comics, and because the film was received so poorly, the resurrection of the show had to be pushed back because they figured, okay, let's try again later. And in 2003, we got the first official look at the Ninth Doctor, played by Peter E. Grant, in the animated 6-part 40th anniversary special, Scream of the Shalka. But then, 2 years later, that was retconned when the show was officially brought back, with the Ninth Doctor being played by Christopher Eccleston. And his stories are Rose, The End of the World, The Unquiet Dead, Aliens of London, Dalek, The Long Game, Father's Day, The Empty Child, The Doctor Dances, Boomtown, Bad Wolf, and The Parting of the Ways. And then we move on to the 10th Doctor, played by David Tennant. Now, David Tennant came back as the 14th Doctor, but I think that it should have been Ncuti Gatwa who is playing the 15th Doctor. I think that he should be 14 instead. But, like I said, I'm not in control, so that's just my personal opinion. I haven't seen any of Ncuti's Christmas special episodes that released in December and November of 2023. However, I did like the bits that I saw of his performance in the clips that I saw, because I haven't seen all of the 60th anniversary specials. But with that being said, let's continue on with the 10th Doctor's stories, which are The Christmas Invasion, New Earth, Tooth and Claw, School Reunion, The Girl in the Fireplace, Rise of the Cybermen, The Age of Steel, The Idiot's Lantern, The Impossible Planet, The Satan Pit, Love and Monsters, Fear Her, Army of Ghosts, Doomsday, The Runaway Bride, Smith and Jones, Shakespeare Code, Gridlock, Daleks in Manhattan, Evolution of the Daleks, The Lazarus Experiment, 42, Human Nature, The Family of Blood, Blink, Utopia, The Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords, Voyage of the Damned, Partners in Crime, The Fires of Pompeii, Planet of the Ood, The Sontaran Stratagem, The Poison Sky, The Doctor's Daughter, The Unicorn and the Wasp, Silence and the Library, Forest of the Dead, Midnight, Turn Left, The Stolen Earth, Journey's End, The Next Doctor, Planet of the Dead, The Waters of Mars, and finally The End of Time. And then let's move on to the 11th Doctor, played by Matt Smith. And Matt Smith's stories are The 11th Hour, The Beast Below, Victory of the Daleks, The Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone, The Vampires of Venice, Amy's Choice, The Hungry Earth, Cold Blood, Vincent and the Doctor, The Lodger, The Pandorica Opens, The Big Bang, A Christmas Carol, The Impossible Astronaut, Day of the Moon, The Curse of the Black Spot, The Doctor's Wife, The Rebel Flesh, The Almost People, A Good Man Goes to War, Let's Kill Hitler, Night Terrors, The Girl Who Waited, The God Complex, Closing Time, The Wedding of River Song, The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, Asylum of the Daleks, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, A Town Called Mercy, The Power of Three, The Angels Take Manhattan, The Snowmen, The Bells of St. John, The Rings of Akaten, Cold War, Hyde, Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, The Crimson Horror, Nightmare in Silver, The Name of the Doctor, The Day of the Doctor, and finally The Time of the Doctor. Then we move on to the 12th Doctor, played by Peter Capaldi, and his stories are Deep Breath, Into the Dalek, Robot of Sherwood, Listen, Time Heist, The Caretaker, Kill the Moon, Mummy on the Orient Express, Flatline, In the Forest of the Night, Dark Water, Death in Heaven, Last Christmas, The Magician's Apprentice, The Witch's Familiar, Under the Lake, Before the Flood, The Girl Who Died, The Woman Who Lived, The Zygon Invasion, The Zygon Inversion, Sleep No More, Face the Raven, Heaven Sent, Hell-Bent, The Husbands of River Song, The Return of Dr. Mysterio, The Pilot, Smile, Thin Ice, Knock Knock, Oxygen, Extremis, The Pyramids at the End of the World, Empress of Mars, The Eaters of Light, World Enough and Time, The Doctor Falls, and Twice Upon a Time. And finally, let's conclude with the 13th Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker. And her stories are The Woman Who Fell to Earth, The Ghost Monument, Rosa, Arachnids in the UK, The Suranga Conundrum, Demons of the Punjab, Kerblam, The Witchfinders, It Takes You Away, The Battle of Rangsur of Kolos, Resolution, Spyfall, Orphan 55, Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror, Fugitive of the Jadoon, Praxius, Can You Hear Me? Ascension of the Cybermen, The Timeless Children, Revolution of the Daleks, The Halloween Apocalypse, War of the Sontarans, Once Upon Time, Village of the Angels, Survivors of the Flux, The Vanquishers, Eve of the Daleks, Legend of the Sea Devils, and The Power of the Doctor. Thus concludes the Doctor Who on-screen timeline thus far, before we get into the 60th anniversary specials, which I'm leaving out because it's just easier to stop at 13. And that is the main stories. I did leave out some mini episodes, some animated episodes. I left in the animation Scream of the Shalka because it was, for a couple of years, the first official adventure of the Ninth Doctor, and I wanted to extend my respect to the people who made that, because the people who are making the show are like, nah, we don't want anything to deal with that. And I'm like, bro, it was official, so you better accept it. Anyway, that is this episode of the National Timely Action Hour podcast. Once again, my name is Aidan. Thank you so very much for listening, and I sincerely hope that you have a wonderful day. And if you're new to my podcast and you want to listen to more episodes about Doctor Who, or Star Wars, or comic books, or video games, or Star Trek, please subscribe, share it with your friends, and thank you to my returning listeners for your loyalty. I do apologize that it took me a while to post this at the time of recording. It's been a little bit since the last episode, so please forgive me. But thank you for your patience. Thank you for listening and for your support. And once again, I sincerely hope that you have a wonderful day. And as I said, it is January of 2024, so I hope you have a blessed new year. Thank you, and goodbye.